Hello everyone and welcome to our next talk in the 2020 MIT Undergraduate Research Technology Conference. Our next presenter is Daisuke Nakahara, an architect of Microsoft's worldwide Internet of Things and part of the mixed reality sales team. In his role, he is responsible for technical engagements with partners to build IoT solutions. With over 15 years of experience as a Windows developer, Daisuke focuses on building IoT solutions from the device point of view. His expertise includes architecting and designing IoT solutions, building devices, writing device code, interacting with cloud backend, and running workloads on edge devices. So we're very excited to have Daisuke here today for a Microsoft Azure IoT workshop.
And hi, everybody. I'm Sarah. I talked to you earlier today, and I'll be helping when we get to the demo, but I'm going to turn off my camera for a little bit.
Hello, everyone. So let's talk about IoT. So what is IoT and how we do IoT? But any invention in the history of human, there were some, someone started with the idea. But, some ideas are great, but idea must have value. Otherwise, it's just a nice thing. And if the people don't see the value, it will not survive. Right? So with the IoT, it's a relatively new thing. We are kind of looking for the value, how we can create the value from the technology and the data and AI, machine learning, and so forth. And it's okay to be silly in a way, right? So every invention started with crazy idea. People thought that's crazy, but after a few years, and people went, wow, that was real, and that person or that company or that team of the people made that happen. That's where invention started, right? And sometimes the ideas were something very small. What if I had this? Or what if we could do this? Those type of things. So you never know. So here's that little value chain or life cycle. In the old days, value was about ownership, owning something, and typically physical things, cars, TVs, and you guys are probably too young to know all that. But just owning a thing was just gave up value to a lot of people. And think of like a phone, and it went through many iterations, and you see many different form factors. Then this thing came to the world, and this changed the world, right? And this changed how people live and people lifestyle, how people use phone, and something nobody could have done. But someone, Steve Jobs, he came up with the idea, and he basically created iPhone, and now many of you use iPhones. And that was the game changer. And that was 17 years ago. Maybe you're still, baby, but it was the, moment. And in the PC world, from Microsoft, we released Windows. That was game changer for the PCs too. So there were many, many game changers, sometimes disruptors to change the world. And but remember the old days? Owning like a PC or owning an iPhone by itself was good enough. But with this iPhone introduced a new concept, right? Steve Jobs always talked about designs, usabilities, user experience. So that was a very new concept. So let's add this experience to this value chain, right? So instead of owning the things, the value became the experience you'll have, with the experience, your lifestyle with your smartphone, that was the value. And when you go to, look for new toys or new phones or whatever, these days people will generally look for which one gives me better, experience, instead of which one looks, just cool, right? And the experience comes from use cases. And so you have to kind of think of what do people want to do with my ideas, right? In the context of IoT, IoT is about you have a thing. That thing generates some kind of data. could be temperature, could be photo, or could be video, audio. But just having that, just knowing the temperature at the point doesn't mean much, right? Just knowing my temperature sensor is telling me it's 70 degrees right now, then people will go, so what, right? But seeing that temperature going up and down, or going too high or too low, that gives them value, right? In maybe buildings, or maybe restaurants, or maybe even your home, you may want to keep your home, not too cold, but not too warm, to save the energy and other things. So just having the series of data to give you the insight will be a value to many people. Okay. So let's think about like a use case. This happens a lot. Well, before COVID, Sarah and I used to travel a lot, and every time I left the home, I was like, did I lock my door? I don't remember, because I had so many bags, and I was in rush. And typically I went back up, I made sure, okay, I did lock. So now I feel better. Right? So that's the experience, and that's the 5 minutes of waste every time I go out. And if I could, just check my front door and every door with my smartphone, or, from my PC or whatever, or even like if I forgot to unlock the door and left the home based on my calendar, if the system could send me the notification, oh, you didn't lock the door, that would be amazing, right? So that's the kind of experience people will willing to pay for. And I feel this is just about, turning on the lights when the door is not locked, because I'm already gone. It doesn't give me a value, right? So there are many ways you can create a value from very small things. Sometimes it's for convenience, and sometimes it generates new revenue. Sometimes you can save cost or energy, but the idea has to have a value. Then experience will create the value, and that's where people willing to invest in. Okay. So how do you turn your idea into an innovation? Sarah and myself work at an IT company, and IoT being a relatively new thing, and not many people has done, tried many ideas yet. So every day we're kind of brainstorming, what can we do? How can we do? And after like 3-4 years in the IoT space, I learned a lot. And the new challenge I recently learned was teaching this to people is very difficult, because I've been in this industry for 20 plus years. So it's relatively okay for me to learn new things, right? And in IoT space, new innovation from various companies are introduced like daily basis, and it's very difficult to catch up even for me. And if I have to teach this to my partners, customers, or friends, it's very difficult. That's what the challenge I found. So the innovation you probably heard from Sarah earlier. Innovation we came up was, what if we just build this for people, because we know how to do it. My friends, our friends and our customers, our partners, they are very smart in their field, but they don't know anything about IoT. So the innovation or idea we came up with, let's just build one, because we know how to do it. And just to give you an idea how easy or difficult or complex IoT can be, this is like a typical IoT solution look like. You have many different components to do different things, and depending on use cases, you pick and choose which one you need. But there are so many boxes and arrows. This is still high level view. Okay? And typically in IoT scenarios, we think about the 3 different spaces, like things, meaning the devices. So you need a device specialist, and insight. That's where we take the data from the devices and then we process them to create the value, right? And based on the value, or based on the analysis or results from it, the data processing, sometimes we take action. That action could be a value, right? Sending a notification when I forgot to unlock my door, for example. So insight and action, that's where value will be produced. And things and their data ingest part. Just sending data to cloud doesn't mean nothing, anything, right? Doesn't do anything, right? So taking the data, process them, and take action, that's where value will be created. All right, so let's look at super high level in my door use case. So we have a thing, door and the locks and then maybe some security monitors, and we have to connect. That's the very first part, and everybody has to go through. You may have some IoT enabled devices at home, like smart lights and smart security system and so forth. Everything has to be connected to backend system. Then you have to ingest. Ingest means, take the data from the device, because every device generates different types of data and in different format. You have to kind of, read them and consume them. And sometimes you have to transform into the consumable format. Then you can process, because you know how data looks like. Think of the way, like, everybody built the Excel spreadsheet, for the assignment, for the group assignment, right? And somehow you have to combine all the Excel sheet to present. Then if everybody, comes up with their own format, then this combining, merging task will be very challenging, right? So it's just like that. We cannot force every device builders to send a uniform format. That's why you have to, ingest, and so you can process. Now you merged all the Excel data into a single Excel sheet, so you can take the average and whatever necessary. Now sometimes you want to also save them for the future use, because data at a point typically doesn't give you much insight. For example, like a door lock unlock state, that's good enough. But like a temperature data, for example, if we react to the single data point because of let's say my wife opened the door, so temperature dropped for a sub-second. If we react to every data point, often you overreact. So you want to look at the series of data. Let's say if the temperature is below 50 for 3 seconds, I should do something, right? So in order to process series of data, you need to store them. So you can go back in the time and look at, okay, what was the temperature 10 minutes ago? That storage can be temporary or long-term. Then you can take action. Now you have data, you process them, so you take action, and depending on the use case, you can take a different types of actions. And in Azure IoT space, these are the like some of the service names. IoT Hub, that's where we call it a cloud gateway, because the IoT Hub becomes the gateway to the devices. They come through, typically internet, right? And so forth. And often, because there are human involved, like operators, administrators, they may want to take a look at the data, like in visual way. So like typically you have like a website or a mobile app or dashboard, that type of thing. And we cannot, emphasize enough the importance of security. If even if you have a great solution, you hear news every day, right? Great solution, great use cases, but once the solution gets hacked, your company will suffer, or your customer will suffer. I'm sure you've been, you've had some experiences. Maybe the server went down, so you had to wait for a couple hours, even a few days, things like that. So for the security, we also have many security-related services, and we have this thing called the Azure Sphere. The design of Azure Sphere is something we learned from Windows and Xbox, because Microsoft, is a little bit famous. So many hackers are interested in breaking our things. And so we learned a lot, and so we put all the lessons and in the design of the Azure Sphere. So this is something we believe very highly secure solution. All right, so let's look at the demo because, oops, sorry, not yet. This one, wrong window. Yeah. So this is something we call the open platform. This is open source based. It's like a script to build all the circles I just explained. Today, if you were to build a solution, you have to build everything manually. You have to configure so many different boxes, and it's okay for me, but probably very difficult for someone new. And if you are very interested in technologies, and if you are kind of person, I'm gonna sleep my sleeve up and I'm gonna get my hand dirty. I'm sure you will enjoy it, but most of the time people say, "Oh, this is too much. I'm done." Right? So we want to solve that problem. So we put together this thing called the open platform. So this is the results, what the open platform generates. I didn't touch anything. And today I don't have real device because COVID situation. So I'm just gonna use the simulator. So this is the Raspberry Pi simulator. And if I click this button, this will start sending temperature data to this solution. All right, let's send. So it's sending this, okay, no, I cannot change the size. So this is sending temperature and humidity every second, I believe. So let's go back to the website. So this is the visualization part, right? So I'm going to select this simulator device, and refresh, and now we can see temperature and the humidity. And it seems very simple, but please, if you are interested, please go take a look at our website, and you can see how many components, how many boxes we have to configure just for this. But this is a good start. Every solution, every use case has a different requirement. Some people may not need a map. Some people may need different types of visual, like the pie chart or tables, right? So that customization part we cannot pre-configure for everybody, but we focused on setting up an infrastructure part. So like the part like ingesting and the processing part, those are something we can kind of pre-configure for most of the cases, and we believe we can cover about 80% of the cases. Right, so this is the basic devices sending data, store them, process them. In this case, I'm just forwarding to the website so we can visualize. It's a very simple use case, but this is the basics of IoT. Let's stop this. Oh, and one more thing. We just recently announced a thing called Iot Plug-and-Play. So to most of you, you don't even question how to set up the devices if you buy like a USB thing for your PC. And you just go out in the store and buy, like a USB stick or something like this, and you don't think about it. You just plug it into your PC and it just works, right? 23 years ago, it wasn't like that, right? So we are trying to solve that problem in the IoT space with this thing called the IoT Plug-and-Play. So this camera device, this is IoT Plug-and-Play enabled. So if I select the camera, I will hide the temperature and humidity because I know this device doesn't generate temperature and humidity. Right? So it's a little nit, but I thought it might be interesting. All right, going back to slide. All right, so IoT is really about the data. In one side, or if you wear devices, it's about the generating data, connecting to the cloud, sending the data. And if you are more on the device backend side, like we call it solution side, or system side, I guess. It's about how to read the data, how to collect the data from different sources, how to format them, how we call it cleaning the data, cleansing the data, and process them, and maybe run some artificial intelligence or machine learning to generate some results or inference data. So you can make a decision basically. Right? In order to make any decision, you have a data, but that just having data doesn't give you the power of making decisions. You have to process them. In order to process the data, you can use many different types of tools available today. And few years ago, a lot of people talked about this big data thing, and the big data is there today. Like probably I guess most of you use some types of SNS, and your SNS tweet or post becomes a part of big data today. People are making some kind of value out of your post. There are privacies, so if you don't click a few things, or if you click a few things, they will not use your personal data for data, for their process or data analysis. But a lot of companies are looking at your SNS tweet, just to look for keywords. How many people are saying, let's say, election, for example, right? And this is the amount of data we're expecting as an industry next few years, or like 5 years. That's lots of digits, but the point of this is every device or physical environment will start generating data, and eventually in next 5 years or so, there'll be millions hour like data points and devices coming online, and 180 zettabytes. And I don't even know how big it is. I don't even know how many hard drives I need for this. Right? It's not about a year. It's per day, right? So the point is there will be lots of data. So from Microsoft, we approach both from device side, which is edge side, and the cloud side. And we want to make both edge and the cloud intelligent, meaning we want to make it easier for people. So you don't have to build your own machine learning application. We can provide the services so you can run, enjoy AI. And basically the idea is, let's focus on what people are good at it. And from Microsoft, we are good at building these highly complex solutions or services. And so people can just use it instead of building their own version every time. And in between, or to support this effort, IoT and things like IoT and the 5G, machine learning, AI, and digital twins, these are coming this year and so on. And we expect in next, I don't know, we don't know how many years, but next, 3 to 5, even shorter years, the environment will be connected. Today, they kind of say, devices are connected or assets are connected, right? Your phone, your device, your sensor, your smartphone, they are connected, but they don't really talk to each other. So going back to the temperature example, with the temperature sensor sending data to cloud, and maybe you can look at the, have a chart or table from your smartphone, but just knowing what the sensor is telling me doesn't mean anything doesn't mean much, I guess, right? I know because I installed the sensor in my office, so I can kind of say, okay, this sensor is my office. This sensor is telling it's a 75 degrees right now. Therefore, my office is 75 degrees. But you have to create this relationship in your head. But once the environment, like devices, rooms, cars, pieces of factory machines, once they all started talking to each other, then you don't have to make this connection, right? We can tell just by using some data from the device saying without me saying this sensor belongs to my office. The system will know. So instead of telling temperature, sensor is telling saying it's at 75 degrees, the system can tell your office is 75 degrees. So that's what this connected environment means. And you can, taking the action part, we can send the feedbacks based on whatever the system finds. Okay? Maybe in agriculture scenario, based on the weather forecast, the system can take some measurement. Well, it's going to be rain tomorrow, so why do we have to water so much today, for example, right? And here's another view of what IoT solution looks like, and the kind of major components, gateway, connectivity, and the hub to the cloud, and application and so forth. Right? But whenever someone builds this IoT solution, there are major steps you can have to go through. How do you connect the data? How do you send the data? How do you ingest and so forth? Circles we talked about earlier. To make your solution or IoT scenario more intelligent, you can add this little new circle, analytics. And this is AI or machine learning. Right? So without AI and machine learning, it's just a math, right? So taking average and taking high and lows, those can be done very easily. But adding analytics will create even greater value. Machines can process a huge amount of data. If this is done by human, it might take weeks and years. But because the machine processing power of the CPUs these days are such great, can process a huge amount of data. So system can generate some insight, which may take years for the human to do. And so that's the value or benefit, by adding analytics. Right? And what if we could run this analytics on the device side? Instead of sending every data to the cloud and run analytics, what if we could run analytics or AI or machine learning on the edge where things are happening, closer to the machine or environment, office, car, whatever. Think of it a way like something like these days the cars, they have 30 to 50 CPUs, and each CPU is generating some type of data. If you have to send every data to the backend through LTE or even 5G, there will be some delay. And if the system is about for protecting you from getting hurt in case you have accident, then even 2 seconds can be very fatal, right? So that 2 second delay can kill people. So for those scenarios, for example, that's not a great scenario, but in some scenarios you take the action very fast in real time or near real time, then running machine learning or AI on the edge, in case this case in the car, will eliminate that delay. That's one example. There are many other use cases benefiting running machine analytics on the AI side. So now you can add further, more actions, because analytics will generate some kind of decisions, right? Based on the past data, the system, thinks it's going to be rain tomorrow, so do this or do that, right? Kind of thing. And a lot of time, human developed this unique skill from the experience. Just by looking at the sky, some farmers can say, "Oh, it's going to rain tomorrow." They just know it, right? So that's kind of things we can do in the system. We don't know how to explain, but there's logic in that person, how that person knows it's going to rain. Maybe smell, maybe air, maybe moisture, whatever. But if we can take all the data, the farmer or the person can make his decision, then we should be able to simulate that same logic, right? And even system AI can go further. Then last and not least, this is very important. Whatever you produce, whatever value you come up, there will be a human or user or customers, right? Most of the case, like even myself, 90 percent of the case, I'm the consumer of the value, many great companies are generating. Sometimes I have to pay for it, but I'm okay paying because I enjoy the service I receive, right? So the communication part becomes very important. The communication could be, receiving email notification or, monthly report. There are so many different ways you can communicate based on the decisions that you make from the system. Now here's one example from NGO we've been working last 6 months or so. They are trying to protect this cute animal, red panda, right? And today what they do is they have so-called the camera trap. It's like cameras you can put in a wood or mountain, and that has a motion sensor, so it will take some photos when there's some movement, right, night and day. And it operates on the battery. It takes photo or movies, and then depending on how you set it up. And the new versions or new generations of these cameras are internet connected and can send a photo as they come in, for example. But those are relatively very new, not relatively very new, like probably maybe this year, maybe last year, so a year or two old. So not many NGOs like Red Panda, they don't have the greatest and newest technology, and sometimes they cannot afford them. So what they do today is they have this camera in the mountain, takes photo. Every once in a while, someone goes out, collect the data, meaning a photo, and from the camera, and the copy to the SD card. From SD card to the PC or whatever the device is. Go back to office, manually copy to PC, and they call it database, but it was really a hard drive, and they manually enter this information to Excel. And from the case, it's like a small version of database, but all manual process. Okay. So what we are trying to kind of evaluating, how we can help with the technology is this. So Sarah has the light, blue light in her bag, that indicating the system is seeing the elephant right now. Right, so this is, I'm running AI. You may hear a little noise because I'm running AI. The PC gets really hot. That's why fan is going crazy. So I'm running this AI in a small box. Oh, I wish I could show it. It's a small PC, and with a cam, like a standard webcam, and looking for object. In the system, elephant, animal, human, car, doesn't matter. It's an object, right? So it's looking for object, and I train the model using some photos with the toy animals, so the system can detect the elephant. Right? So I also trained this model with let's wait for the lights to go off. All right, with the zebra. Right, so now that light will go, red one should go off. Yeah, it's white because it's zebra. I call it white. Right? And the idea is the red panda, for example, they are looking for red panda. Now they are taking photo on any movement the camera detects. But what if we could add this capability to the camera? One, waste of battery because it's operating on the battery. You don't have to go through the camera animals, and they are not interested. But if we the photo that's the device to, so they don't have to go through hundreds of photo manually, right? And some use cases, very unfortunately, many animals are killed for bad reasons, and we call them poachers. And we want to detect the people, and then we want to send rangers, for example. So let's see. I also added human in my model. So let's see if this works. All right. Oh, what happened? Oh, the system is a little busy. Yeah. Oh. Okay. toy that didn't work. Okay, let's try different Goku. Here you go. Okay. Yeah, so I'm running on a relatively low power. My detection rate is not great, and you can feel the delay from the camera, but you get the idea. So based on what system detects, I can send a notification to the little light, LED light in Sarah's home, and we live about 20-30 miles away, right? So it's not fake. She doesn't live in this. She lives in a different building, even different city. But this is the kind of power of IoT, right? So when when the system detects something, if you are interested in knowing what's going on, in this case, it's, detecting human, for example, you can send a notification anywhere in the world as long as you have IoT connection, right? So that device could be a smartphone, could be, an alarm system like LED light in Sarah's home, or could be, emails, SNS, WeChat, WhatsApp, or so there are many ways we can think of. Right. So these are the ideas came up. So this is the example of what we've been doing with the technology and the people needing our help from technology point of view. So here's what they are doing today. Like I explained, they have cameras in the mountain, in the field. People collect the camera, go back to the office, and do all the manual processing. So from this to with the IoT, this is fancy. This is the design we came up, right? So the cameras are not connected today. So in the future, when camera, they can upgrade to the connected cameras, we can, automate even further. But for now, let's assume, they copy the photos from camera, go back to office. Today they, do all these manual operations. Instead of doing that, let's send everything to the cloud. Upload the cloud. Just like you upload your photo to your, Twitter or Facebook. Same concept. Then the system will pick up the new photos and process them. And instead of having someone go through, hundreds of photos just to look for red pandas, we can use AI to process photos and do visualization on that. But this is the kind of architecture we came up and then we've been doing as a part of Project 15. If you are interested in learning more around IoT or AI, machine learning, any like other newest and greatest technologies, we have this thing called Microsoft Learn. Because of COVID, most of the contents are built for online, which is in a way it works better, right? We used to kind of rely on kind of in-person interaction, especially on the trainings. So I did lots of training deliveries, and I thought it's very difficult to deliver training, online. For example, right now, I really wish I could see your face so I can see, are you interested? Are you smiling? Are you bored? Some people sleeping. That kind of, gives me a better feedback. But still, we're trying to be creative and positive thinking. So we built a lot. We are releasing new learning or training materials. Some are gamified, so you can enjoy. It's like a collecting points, and you get the badges, and then you can post to your SNS and kind of proud of show the world. I passed this certification, for example. So just think of any idea could be game changer. You never know. You never know, right? So in the Red Panda example, that's something like building the system with AI and the camera. That's something I do every day for commercial reasons, right? But and in our side of world, because people have been developing and learning these skills, they evolve. It's not that difficult. But for the scientists who are trying to save animals or trying to save the earth or environment, forest, ocean, they are good at with what they do or what they specialize. but they are not expert in IoT or technology, right? But funny thing is, we know how to do things, but we didn't know what to do, right? So I know how to set up the camera, how to build a machine learning model, AI model to detect certain conditions, but we didn't know what to do with it, right? We didn't know the use cases. We didn't know the ideas people were looking for or looking for to solve. So just pay attention to the people, just listen to them. That's how we learned, and we said this is very great use cases. We never thought about it, but it's so easy for me, but it's so difficult for them. And if we talk and work together, we can make something happen. And you never know, one of these can take off one day and hopefully change the world and have an impact in human society and the earth and all that, right? Right, that's the end of my presentations. So I put my demo source code. It's not exactly, but like 80% of it in this GitHub. So if you are interested in, please take a look. Take my GitHub, and I should have also added project 15 URL. Is there any way I can put the message in this? Oh, I can cut this. Is a chat for everybody or just us? Comment.
If you click on the stage one, that one is for.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, you still have 18
so can
minutes to answer any questions.
still have time? Okay, for that Q&A. Okay. So, so this is the link to this one. If you go to this website, and there's a little instruction, and with a click of button, you will have exact same thing. Oops. Right. Exact same on this one. So, and then we're looking for feedback. We just kind of soft released as a pilot. So we're looking for feedback, comments, or your ideas. So please let us know. Right, with that, I can take questions if you have any. Sorry, where do I see questions?
In the chat and stay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I found that. Oh, actually, I had the web page right here. So this is the Project 15 code website. I can go to deploy and just click. Well, you have to have an Azure subscription to set up anything on Azure, but whoops. Right. My machine is going very slow, so let me stop the AI. Should make things better. Okay, yeah. Then you just give a name and select which location you want to deploy your solution. And these 4 fields, this is kind of workaround for now, so we will make it easier. So in the future, you just give a name to the project and select the location, then click create. Then you'll have where it go, this website in about 8 minutes. So it's Right. No one has a question. I can actually go through this. About 15 more minutes, right? So it should be good. IT demo. I'm giving the name to the project, and at Azure World we call it a resource group. And let's select Northeast. Yes, fine. You guys are in East Coast. Yeah, but name this. I just run this script. This is something we don't have really automated way right now, so we need to create the software to automate this. So we just need to take these, magic numbers.
Oh, we actually got a question.
Eventually, we
so
should
could you share about your
will
experience
automate
working
this.
with other NGOs?
Sure. Sure. Which one's good? Which one would be interesting? One last moment so we can get this going while I'm talking. Okay. Other examples. From technology point of view, I think I saw 3 patterns of use cases. One, AI with the camera mostly, like a camera trap, want to detect some, good or bad behavior activities, animals, for example, or ear detection, name it, right? So the idea is for those NGOs, they don't have a lot of people. They don't. So what if we could automate some part of it so they can focus on other things? So to reduce the human manual intensive operations, they are very much interested in replacing with AI, right? Often, typically camera, sometimes with audio. So your system becomes eyes and ears for the people, so you can replace the people instead of having security guys standing on the gate at the gate all day just looking for animal or looking for bad things happening. You can just have install the camera with AI, or look for the noise or any normal conditions. The other are like very typical IoT scenario with the sensors, environmental monitoring, like ocean test, more like an agri thing. So the difference between commercial use cases and the energy or sustainability area is they are not doing it for money, right? So for the commercial IoT, let's take agriculture as an example. They want to make more revenue, or they want to reduce the cost. Those are the goals for major goals for the commercial use cases. But for NGOs, they are like, can we save the usage of fertilizer, so it'll be easier or better for our, or better can we reduce the amount of water usage, because in some parts of the world water is very not something you can easily get in Africa, desert, in those places, right? So how can we make the water usage more efficient, so it will improve the people's life, or right? And the third one is more like more, it's very academic in a way. There are many great researches on different subjects, but some of them are those scientists, they don't know what to do. Well, they know what they want, but they don't know how to do and how they can do, or even if those are available today. Whether IT or other technologies, right? Think of like AI. For example, AI. Right? A few years ago, when I was talking about AI, many people thought about like Terminator kind of AI, the robot. right? Robot replacing the human, robot, acting like a human and doing, replacing the like a labor, things like that. Or sometimes even robot, think it by itself and behave, act by itself. But now they learned what the AI is capable of. So, those people have better idea these days. That means they're like, okay, I know we cannot do all this, but can we do just this part, right? There could be like a water purification or in the United States, like West Coast, we had like wildfires this fall, right? The smoke can hit the Seattle area. For a few weeks, we couldn't open the window, right? So can we do something about it to prevent those, right? That type of thing. So mostly sustainability area, either environment or animals. But the an interesting thing about NGOs are they have they are very motivated. They have very interesting ideas, but typically they are very small, and there are hundreds of people doing the same thing around the world. So I was like, what if you all talk to each other? We can talk 100 times on the same thing, but what if we could just talk together, right? So that's another challenge I kind of found, work through NGO engagements, because like during my day job, I work as a representative of Microsoft, and I have a customer partner. They represent the company, and they cover lots of areas or customers or regions or whatever, right? But typically, those are small companies. They have in a way, good thing that they are focusing on their local environment, animal, whatever, but it doesn't scale. So that's why we are partnering with the United Nations. They can be our scale engine. Because, Sarah and I, we cannot, unfortunately. So, if we could, partner with someone who can speak to hundreds of those people, that's the kind of scale engine for us. So, example of NGOs are saving the environment, animal, making things easier for the earth. Those are kind of three things I see. Sarah, you want to add anything to? Maybe she's not.
Hopping on.
I'm back in. Hello.
Hi.
It's called clicking things and see if they work. I was gonna just add everything Daisuke said, but also a point about the GEF Small Grants Program. I mentioned a little bit earlier today. This is the group within the United Nations Development Program that we've been working with, and I can post the links again into the chat, but we are partnering with our academic capstone programs, one of our academic capstone programs, to be able to have students, either individual or group projects, to be matched to an NGO. So if you think of, when you're proposing a capstone project, if that's part of your program, you submit, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build it using the Project 15 open platform as a base. And then I'm going to partner with an NGO to learn the use cases to define a POC or, the next step in one of their projects, so that we can slowly, but as a larger group, come together to work, make sure these projects are moving forward, because it's folks like you who have the technology skills, that are missing, these sort of puzzle pieces. And so, like Daisuke said, we can't be cloned, and I think that's a good thing. But when we meet with them, you're meeting with them, you're getting business requirements. There's opportunities, to learn about what devices they're trying to connect, to help them connect them, and move these projects along. So if you're interested in that, I'll throw, it's I'll throw it into the chat so you can write to learn more about that. And you might already be working with your advisor. And Francesca, who had spoken yesterday, works in that program. But if you're not, or if you have friends at other universities that might be interested, we'll be putting up more information about that soon. But we're really, really excited about it. I'll stop talking now. More questions? I have to check the link.
We got one. What was the process of collaborating with RAN Panda Network and the United Nations like? Were there difficulties in communicating, agreeing on technical details, or different perspectives on use cases?
Do you want to take that, Daisuke, or do you want me to answer?
So I'll start. Yeah. Hear me, right?
Yes.
No?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'll take first, shot. From technical person, I don't really decide anything. I decide how to implement. I advise what to use, how to do, but decision is theirs. Get into the conflict of interest, basically, right? So we are interested in supporting them, helping them, but I don't really decide what to do. How part I may have a say, because I have been, sometimes I have interesting idea, better idea, and I think I know better than them in certain spaces, right? But so difficulties in communicating, agreeing, yeah. So I guess that sometimes, not always, sometimes the difficulty is convincing them what's possible, but also making sure they understand the cost associated with it. Yes, we can enable, or we can build a huge big solution with the intelligent edge, intelligent cloud with AI and machine learning, right? But everything comes at the cost. Right? So I have to, we have to kind of make sure what's the budget they are looking for, right? Otherwise, we build some off, the solution may run, a month or 2 or 6 months, and when they run out the money, then they won't be able to sustain the solution. Right? So it's ironically, sustainability project. The project itself is not sustainable. That's the worst case, right? So we have to sometimes I have to convince that, those NGOs, okay, I don't know how much money you have. This is what it's going to cost you. If you are okay and if you know how to manage, I'm happy to help you implement those. But you have to understand nothing's free. Okay. And that's probably the difficulties. Agreeing is more like details. They don't really know. They will tell us what they want to achieve, but they don't care how to get there. And that's where we are good at it, right? So we know how to implement from idea A into something doable or feasible. So this process is mine, right? Outside of this is theirs. So what they want to do and the outcome of the system, that's what they own. But this, in between, I guess we have more control. And another challenge is, I enjoy writing code, like this demo and so forth. It's very fun, but there's only so much I can do. Right, I have only 24 hours, and sometimes I'm like, I wish like physical time is a lot longer. If I had 48 physical hours, I can do double, right? So there's a limited time, and maybe one day, you never know, this project 15 team grow to 1,000 people, then we have that problem. But right now, it's a small team working with multiple NGOs. Through and without, with and without United Nations support. So that bandwidth or limitation, like resource limitation there. So sometimes, they expect me to do everything for them, and I have to tell them, yeah, I can do this much because I have another one coming, right? So I have to kind of be fair to everybody.
So
that's
I know we're
another
at time.
challenge.
I was just going to add on that. So that's really, it's a theme that we can't be cloned. And there's so much to do. So that's why we're really, really hopeful and excited about, partnering with our academic group at Microsoft, who is then partnering with all sorts of universities, including MIT, when it comes to things like Azure and, all sorts of topics. But on this one, that's kind of what we pitched to, her name's Yoko Watanabe, and said, hey, we might have a lot of students who would be interested in bringing their skills, their talents, their ideas to help these projects. And, she said, well, that sounds like a great idea. Let's see if we can figure that out. And so when you think about what Daisuke just said about, bandwidth, and he's only one person and I'm only one person, but, by putting it out on GitHub, not only can the formal capstone program work, but also now you've got some place that, let's say there's an NGO and they say, hey, we're doing this, we're leveraging this, this solution. And if you want to come help and volunteer or something, like, who knows what could happen? Or maybe a student says, I've got an idea, I'm going to make, a group that does that or something. Who knows? Up to you.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us.
All right. So,
if you guys stick around in a few minutes,
just one last thing.
we'll have Adnan and Rafiq to talk about cloud computing.
Sure.